Hello, and welcome to His Light in the Darkness podcast. I am Shonna Fontaine. I started this podcast inspired by a devotional that I wrote talking about depression, anxiety, grief, fear, worry, addiction, basically to bring His light in the darkness. Today we're going to talk about grief. Now, I haven't been MIA, so to speak, but I did take a few weeks off, and that is because my son's father died. And what was most important for me to do at that moment was to be there for my son. He knew it was coming, but nothing can really prepare you for the feeling of grief when it actually happens. And I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that have gone through the same thing. Like you knew that a family member maybe was sick with cancer, or, their physical ailments, maybe diabetes, something that causes the body to fail. And it's coming, but nothing prepares you for that moment of true loss. It's like, it's kind of hard to describe, but those of you who have dealt with it, I'm sure know that, you're prepping yourself up for it. You tell yourself, okay, I got this. It's going to be okay. I know it's coming. And you try to, I guess you would say, mourn before the time actually comes. I'm going to mourn that moment. But it never brings you to a place that you can really understand it until it happens. And then it can be crushing. It can devastate you. And, we knew it was coming with his father. His father and I got along. We divorced a long time ago when my son was young. But one of the things we did was we always put him first. We shared custody 50-50. We didn't argue about it. It was always he is number one. We never prevented anyone, any parent from coming to an event because it was always support our kid. So our son was very stable, I would say. Our situation was very rare. And that can be another podcast as far as being okay with your ex, for the sake of the kids. Now, I know there's bad people and you may say, you just don't know my ex, but if two people put the best foot forward and say, you know what, kids are number one, and it is an effort for both, I'm not saying if one says, hey, I'm trying, the other one isn't, I get that. But if you're in a situation and your ex is, someone that can really be talked to, that they're sane, so to speak, then you can give a supporting, loving environment for your kid or kids. And so that's what we tried to do. We were friends throughout the years. I spoke to him often. Obviously, if I text him, had to do with our son. But whenever I saw him in person, one of the things we talked about as we got older, and my son, he's 23 now, was I never was one to come in with a serious word. It was always sarcasm. That was the household, sarcasm, always. So even in his final moments, I told some jokes because that's what he expected from me. It wasn't like, oh, the ex-wife is here. Oh, why did she come here? It was more of the ex-wife is here. I'm okay. My son's going to be okay because she's here. And I talked to my son about it and I said, you know what? I think he waited for me, not because he was waiting for me as a person, as the ex-wife. He was waiting for me as the support for my son. Because, like I said, we always put our son first, always. That was just one of the things we agreed to in the very beginning when we discussed divorce. It was my son would always be first. So whenever I saw his dad, it was usually sarcasm. And I'm actually writing a novel. And his dad was editing it for me. It's inspired by a true story, very along the lines of the true story. Names have been changed. But his dad was actually actively editing this book for me. And so we had a good relationship as far as that went. The story, my son knows about it, and I asked his dad to edit. My son was like, "Oh, that's so cool. My dad's editing." So in his final moments, I brought it up. I was like, "Oh, you're gonna miss the release of the novel." And he just smiled. And I said, "But it's gonna align pretty well with the true story without being the true story." And he smiled. And that moment, it was interesting. I want to share what happened because it was a beautiful, beautiful moment. And I would have to say my faith in God has doubled. My son said the same thing. I said, being in that moment, my faith has definitely doubled. It's absolute. I mean, it was absolute before, but it's, 1,000% absolute. And his dad had the choice to go. His body had failed. It was failing. It was just, we knew it was the end. My son and I knew. We saw him and we were like, yeah, this is it. We know. And I think that my ex waited for me. And when he saw me, he basically said, okay, I want to go. Like, it's okay now. And he wasn't one to be so focused, on one thing. He was always sarcastic with me, but he was so serious and pointed, and I've never seen him that way before. And it wasn't emotional. It was like, my son and I discussed it. Maybe God had spoken to him. Okay, it's time. He wasn't emotional. He was excited and ready. So when they did take him off life support, he wasn't one to be extremely expressive. In other words, his eyes never grew large. It was unless he was doing some joke. But he was just very resting face, if that makes sense. And once they turned off the life support, his eyes got so wide. And you knew the wonder and amazement in his face. It wasn't, if anybody has watched a person pass away, they know the body does its own things, and this was not it. Because if anyone has seen someone pass away, you know that there's certain things that the body does, and, this was the look of, I can't believe it. Is that what it looks like? I can't believe it. That's heaven. It was just the most magical thing I've ever seen on someone's expression, and you could just tell that he had a glimpse of heaven. It's like my son and I said, we know where he is. There's absolutely no question. And it was just a few minutes, and he was gone. And it was, I keep telling my son, most people don't get the choice to say, I want to go. There's very few people that say, I want to go, and are coherent about it, and he made the decision. So I said, when it comes to grief, one, he made the decision, and a lot of people don't get that. And I know that's not comforting, but if, let's say, you have a family member that's suffering with cancer, and they've been doing chemo, and they say, you know what, I want to go. I don't want to do the chemo anymore. I just want to live my life as best I can until the moment is gone. And to be able to make that choice, like to say, okay, we're done. We fought the good fight. We're done. To know that they made that choice voluntarily really helps. But what really can heal the soul is knowing that they saw a glimpse of heaven. It's like, I can't, seeing his face, because I can see it clearly, is just, it was just this magical expression, because I knew him for over 30 years, I knew him probably better than anybody. That's what I always joked at. And I did. I could predict what he would say, word for word. I knew his personality. I knew the good. I knew the bad. I knew the, everything. And I'd never seen that look before. And he was so determined. I'm ready to go to heaven. I'm ready to go. And it was just like, you knew he had to see Jesus. You just knew it. And that look, my faith, I agree with my son, my faith doubled. It was just like, how glorious, because we hear it, we read it in the Bible. Okay, this is what it's going to be. You hear people talk about it. Yeah, this is what it's going to be. And you're like, okay, I get it. But then you see it face to face, like in front of you, and you just go, I can't, we're human, right? We can't imagine. And so, as much as I know that grief is there if you've lost somebody, if they were able to choose, what a comforting feeling that would be, that you know that it was their choice to say, okay, I'm ready. But to be able to see heaven and to see that. And I know that some people go, oh, well, they said, oh, I'm with God. Each moment is different with people, I think. Obviously no one is the same in the way they see it and the way they talk about it. And I guess if you would have known him and known that he was never like that, not with that kind of expression, never, ever in a million years. And I guess that's what it means, why it means so much, is because he wasn't like that, Grief can be a beast. I was trying to explain to my son, because my dad passed away, so I said, sometimes you feel a hole in who you are. You feel like something's missing, like something's gone. And then you're trying to navigate, how do I get back to being me, right? How do I get back to where I'm supposed to be, me? But that changes you, Losing someone, especially that close to, like he was very, very close to his father. Losing someone like that, it changes you. And it's not like you aren't the same person, but you look at things differently. It changes your perspective. It changes how you take on life. It changes everything. And it changes who you are, but not at the core of who you are. It just changes you in perspective, the way you approach things. And like in his case, really makes you grow up, because it's like, I'm the man, I'm the man of the house, so to speak. I'm the man. And grief can be crippling. It can. What I told him is it gets easier to live with. Now, as we know, if you've lost someone, especially a child, someone, a loved one, a spouse, the feeling of loss doesn't go away. It just gets easier to deal with. It's not the moment by moment. It's not the, every day. Just feels like it every single day. It gets easier to live with it, I guess you would say. I know I hear some people say, you need to get over it. There's no getting over it. Getting over it doesn't work. There's no getting over it. It's learning to live with it better. Learning to live with it where you say, okay, I got this. I can do this. And I told him the other day, I said, oh my gosh, my dad's been gone like almost 4 years. Doesn't even seem like it. The time flew by. And we'll joke around, oh, look, this is what he would have said about this. This is what he would have said about that. Even my ex-husband's father, he and I were extremely close, and such a wonderful, wonderful man. And my son and I will do that. Oh, your grandpa would say, da-da-da, if he saw this right now. Or, he would be laughing. He'd be telling his jokes. He always told the same jokes. And then he'd smile before he said it, because he was, in part, he was waiting for you to look at him like, seriously, really, the same joke again. And that's where he found the humor in it, and the enjoyment was he was just watching your face and your reaction. Man, I miss that man. He was a good man. He was a great man. And he's one of the people that I miss the most. His grandfather, his father's father. And that would be, and I'll catch myself sometimes thinking about him and wishing that I still had him here, his grandfather. But I know that like his grandfather had dementia, and it was just, and he knew it. He had those lucid moments. So if you have like a parent or a grandparent that has dementia and they have the lucid moments so they know, he once told me, he said, this is a prison that I'm living in. It's a prison because I have these lucid moments and I know I have it, but then my memory gets lost again. He said it's like living in a prison. And dementia is just such a horrible, horrible thing, horrible disease. So, I say disease, a horrible thing to live with. And those are the moments that I say, I really wish I had him here, but I wouldn't want him here suffering with dementia. He passed away during COVID, like right when COVID first started, when they wouldn't let you in the nursing homes. And he died, hopefully in his sleep, where he didn't feel like he was alone. We couldn't see him for a month before he passed away. So I always told my son, I'm happy that he passed away when he did, so he wasn't there constantly alone. That was a very horrible time, especially for anyone who was in nursing homes or anything like that, where the elderly, they couldn't be seen. That was a horrible time. So in that respect, it was a blessing that he went right at the beginning and quickly. But I wouldn't want to keep someone. My son and I had the discussion. I have a living will. And I said, I don't want you to make decisions, have to make decisions. I already have a living will, have it set in place where if something happens, you don't have to choose. You don't have to say, what would mom want? It's already there. And, I wouldn't want to keep someone here if they were suffering. I hear that from some people, oh, don't leave me. And then I think about it and say, well, we don't live their life. We may say, I want you to be here. I want you to stay here. But if they're suffering with something, if they're suffering with, some physical, horrible ailment, cancer, something, I don't want to say, please stay here with me, and then their life be constant hospitals or, long-term care, and that's like, oh, we can do this to keep them here, but they're not going to, get any better. It's like, keep them here for this. That's not a way to live. That's not a way to keep someone. And you hear people say, oh, I just want to be selfish and keep you here. But are you living their life? Is it okay to let them go? And I think that was one of the things with him was he wasn't going to get better. He just wasn't when we knew it. And so when he said, I want to go, we understand. Absolutely. You have our support. If this is what you choose, yes, you're lucid, you understand. Yes, absolutely. You have our support. And that's where I told my son, he was such a mature young man. And his following through with his father's wishes was a true testament of love. That I said, if you ever wanted to prove to him that you loved him, the fact that you followed through and you honored what he asked for, true testament of love. And I think those are the moments when we show up. And is it crushing? Yeah, crushes your soul, crushes you, absolutely. But, it's just something that, and even I said with him, I dealt with it myself, just through grief. When you deal with something with grief, everyone has their way of grieving. Everyone has their way of dealing with it, and grief does not know a time frame. There's some people, get over it now. Come on, get over it. You should be fine. Get over it. And it's like, everyone has a different grieving time. And then if people don't check in, oh, his dad died. Oh, okay. Well, whatever. Moving on. Let's get to the next thing. At least check in. If your friends have lost someone, at least check in. Ask how they're doing. Ask if they're okay. Ask if they need something. Because losing someone who is close to you can be crippling. But something I told my son was, the only one that can heal, the only one that can bring peace and comfort in a time like this is God. That is it. You cannot find comfort in another human being, not when you are so close to someone, not when you love hard, not when you have a close relationship. The person, the one who can comfort you and give you peace and heal that missing thing is God. That is it. No one person can do it. And if that's where you're going, if you're going, if I just spend enough time with Sally, if I just spend enough time with Jake, then it's going to be better. And sure, that may be for a few minutes, maybe watching a movie or just hanging out. But true peace, true filling that hole or filling that emptiness or filling whatever is missing, the only one that can do that is God. 1000% believe that because I know it firsthand. That's how I was when my father died. Knew it firsthand. It was like, God, and I even said it before he died. I said, God, you are the only one that can heal this grief. And you may want to cry every day. I told my son, if you feel like crying, cry, and cry hard, because that gets out the energy, that gets out the emotion, and then you can go forward till the next time you feel like crying. And maybe that's immediate, or maybe it lasts 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road. When those moments come and you feel like you need to cry, cry. Let it out. And you will feel so much better to continue to the next step of life, the next day, step by step, foot in front of the other, one in front of the other. But if you're feeling that and you're just like, I just want to cry, then cry. Don't hold it in, because holding it in can really just stress you out, take you in deeper. And that, I think, is a good part of the healing process, is crying. Just cry as hard as you can. You may get to the point where, oh my gosh, I can't breathe, but now I'm okay. That's fine, but you'll feel better. And then you can, okay, now I need to, do whatever responsibilities you have. Get to the next step, foot in front of the other, get to the next day, get to the next month, get to the next work week, etc., etc. I truly believe God is the answer. God is the only answer when it comes to things like grief. And it's hard. It's never easy. It's never easy. Some people deal with it well, meaning better than others. They're not a mess. And maybe your loved one died and it's been 10 years and you still just are devastated. That's one of the reasons I wrote my devotional. I do have some about grief in there, and that is because it's to help work through grief, not keeping it in, not trying to, like the Gen X, suck it up, don't cry, keep moving on. It's a healing process, and don't be hard on yourself. Don't say, okay, it's been 3 years, I need to get over it. Everybody heals at a different place, and you just have to be accepting of how you get through things. But don't go into that hole and just keep going and going, because that's what's going to keep you from being happy. Cry, talk about your loved one, talk about memories, and, get that out there, because as you talk about it, it will help heal. Keeping it in does not help heal. You need to get it out. You need to express yourself, think about it. If you've gotten anything out of this podcast, it is that healing takes time. Everyone heals differently and at a different time. If you need to cry, cry your heart out. And know that God is the one that can comfort you the best. Thank you for joining us. If you'd like to be on the podcast or you'd like to share a story, please email us at hislightinthedarknesspodcast@gmail.com. And we look forward to seeing you next time. God bless.